Welcome back to the Cardinal Report. Joining us now is North Cenrtal Sports Information Director, Clark Teuscher. Clark, thanks for checking in.
Good to be here.
So let's start with the men's basketball team. They have a huge second half against the Augustana Vikings to come back and win in a very tough place to play.
Yeah, I'm sure that wasn't plan A. You certainly don't want to find yourself in that position on the road against a tough opponent, but they put together one of the more inspired halves of basketball that we've seen them play in the last few years, and really dominated the game really for the last 8 or 10 minutes. And had that thing put away pretty soundly by the time the buzzer hit.
And it's halves like that that show that this team really can make some noise in the postseason when they're hitting on all cylinders. That's their second 20-win season in a row now, and they move up to number 8 in the national rankings. Yeah,
I think to talk to any one of them, they will tell you that the key is the defensive end of the floor, because that's what keys the easy baskets, like with the turnovers, the extra possessions. I think when they're really communicating and digging in on defense is when you really see them play their best basketball.
And so now they get a berth to the CCIW tournament. They won't be hosting it, but that hasn't really dictated who's going to win the championship in years past.
Yeah, there's been a lot of lower-seeded teams that have won that event in the last several years since it's been instituted. Coach Reardon, his 2006 team won that tournament at Augustana. So with a comparable group to the one he has now, it's not necessarily exactly the same, but a strong post play has been a constant through both of those different teams. So certainly a team that plays well defensively and doesn't pay any mind to the background, it has a chance to do very, very well.
And speaking of conference tournaments, the women's basketball team now controls their own destiny as they're fighting for that 4th and final spot in the CCIW tournament.
Yeah, really, they basically just have to win their last 2 games. Even if they split those 2, there's still some tiebreaker possibilities. I think they might still get in, which is certainly a goal that the coaching staff had in mind at the beginning of the season to get back to the postseason. We had some points there where we didn't necessarily think they were going to get there, but they've put together enough wins to get to the point where it looks like it's more and more probable by the day.
And if you looked at this team before the season started on paper, I mean, only one CCIW win last year, and it was in their last game of the season. Not many people would have thought that this Cardinal team could even compete for this spot, so it's got to be a bright spot, seeing that they're right there.
Yeah, they had the bulk of the last year's team returning. They adopted a completely new style of play. After some time of adjustment there, they had some growing pains there, particularly early in the season. But they've really embraced what they're doing, and it's really become kind of a nice team dynamic from the top of the roster down to the end of the bench. So I think that whether that's the reason that they're in the position that they're in, it's a matter for debate. But certainly they've stepped up their performance across the board.
And it's been exciting to watch. And another team that's been exciting to watch is the men's track and field team. But they moved down to number 4 in the national rankings. But really, it's shown in years past that those rankings are sort of up in the air because anything can happen in 22 days in Naperville.
Yeah, those are compiled using a mathematical formula to take into account how those teams might do at the national championships, but it also takes into account a lot of athletes that won't necessarily be at the championships in March because you have a limited field. So you really can't tell until the last ranking, when they only take into account the actual athletes who have qualified for the championship, how teams can expect to do. There's the 3 teams in front of them are usual suspects as far as Division III track and field is concerned. So it's not a huge surprise to see them at the top at this point. We're really just going to have to wait until March and see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, it's almost like you need a degree in finance to figure out some of these mathematical formulas they're using, because nobody's going to score 180 points in a national championship meet.
Yeah, typically 30 to 40 points is going to get you into the hunt. So there's a lot of debate about whether those formulas are really necessary to quantify a team's value at a national championship. But that's the system they've come up with. A lot smarter people than me were involved in setting up that whole formula. So that's the one we're going to go with, and we'll just kind of wait and see where we're at in about 4 weeks here at Albicarius Track.
Yeah, and you mentioned right down the road at Albicarius Track is where it'll be held. Do you think that could be an X factor for the Cardinals, with the top 4 teams being so close in those points, that them being on their home track could maybe push them over the top?
Well, everybody's tougher at home, and this North Central is the first school in the last several years to really host the meet and be a contender for a championship. So with a strong alumni base and classmates and teammates all around the track. Certainly, you would think it would be a huge help in trying to achieve at the highest level.
And somebody who's hoping to be a huge help in the fall is the new football coach that was announced this week as the Cardinals announced a new defensive coordinator.
Yeah, Mike Murray was named the defensive coordinator this week. He was most recently at Illinois Wesleyan as the defensive coordinator. He was their coordinator in 2009, the last time Illinois Wesleyan beat North Central, and was actually the head coach at Benedictine for John Thorne's first game as a head coach at North Central, and won that game as well.
Oh, wow.
So certainly John respects the competitive level and the knowledge that Coach Murray has. And I think they're excited. The team's excited to get started. They really can't wait for spring practice to start here later in the spring, and get some things installed and get ready for the season.
A lot of history to them. It should be exciting.
Yeah, I think so. And they go way back even before they got into coaching against each other. So I think there's a good relationship there. I think he's going to get along really well with the staff.
Well, it looks solid. Hopefully it's a great fit. Clark, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
The wrestling team will be back on the mat in the CCIW Championships starting next Thursday at Wheaton College. I'm Marc Dahlquist. We'll see you here next time on the Cardinal Report.